Over the course of negotiations, we have heard the minister say repeatedly that the best agreements are negotiated at the table. And I continue to agree with our minister. We made real progress in the 5 days in mid-May where negotiations occurred. And yesterday we had a good day of important back and forth discussions about possible solutions to address the biggest priorities for teachers: classroom complexity and compensation. In the end, while there was a willingness by the GTBC to discuss possible solutions, the government lacks the political will to adequately commit to providing funding to improve the conditions in classes for our students. Last night, we announced that sanctions will be imposed starting Monday, June 10th, which means that all voluntary services, including extracurricular activities and noon hour supervision, will be withdrawn. Teachers will still be providing professional services within the school day. We want to move this process forward without any delays. While the GTBC offered binding arbitration as a possible path forward, we agree with the minister again that the best agreements are negotiated at the table. Students need more supports now. Binding arbitration can be a lengthy process, which would guarantee that no additional supports would be provided by September and possibly not even January if it's a prolonged period before we get a decision from the arbitrator. I believe that we are close to an agreement, and I encourage the government and the Saskatchewan School Boards Association to continue negotiating so that we can come to a quick resolution and start improving our students' learning conditions and our teachers' working conditions as soon as possible. As always, if we're returning to the bargaining table, any sanctions that we've announced would be suspended or canceled. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have if you raise your hand. I see Keenan.
Hi, Samantha. If you can you maybe just lay out how or why you guys are rejecting binding arbitration? I remember you calling for it all the way back in March. If you can just explain how we've gotten to the point where you're now rejecting it.
Yeah, I mean, bargaining, the context changes very quickly. Back in March, we hadn't, in my perspective, experienced bargaining at the table. There hadn't been any good faith negotiations with back and forth, presenting proposals. And so we saw that as the only option to move the process forward. Whereas now we've had a full week back in May of good faith negotiations, back and forth conversations. Again, yesterday, the GTBC showing that they're ready to listen to solutions, discuss solutions, and find that Saskatchewan made a solution that can start to address the conditions in our classrooms in a meaningful way. I've said before, it's not going to be solved. This is a 10-year problem that we've experienced in Saskatchewan with underfunding of education and year after year seeing cuts to the supports in our classes. But we need to start seeing real solutions come to our schools. And teachers really need to see that in September. And our students deserve to see those solutions starting to come to schools in September. Binding arbitration can be a very long process. And so there's a concern that if we go there now, given that we are a few months down the road from where we were before when we had first asked for it, it just means that the solutions aren't going to come to our classes as soon as possible. And like I said, I do think that we are close to finding a solution that would be agreeable, and we'd prefer to do that through negotiations. And like I said, as the minister has said before, the best agreements are negotiated. And I think that there's a way that we can get to a negotiated agreement.
You mentioned a few times how you feel like this is very close. Everybody knows that the school year the end of the school year is fast approaching. Do you think you can, or do you have the optimism that you can get a deal done before then?
Absolutely. It comes down to the political will of the government and the Saskatchewan School Boards Association on whether they want to see a solution that can start to be implemented in September. We talk about coming to decisions that are in the best interest of our students, and that means improving their learning environment as soon as possible. This has gone on long enough. We have had these conversations for long enough. I think that they understand the issues that we have been talking about and the growing class complexity and the need for additional supports. It just comes down to that political will of committing to funding those and committing for over a period of time, continuing to see improvements to our classes. We're ready to find an agreement that works for everyone, and again, most importantly, works for our students. And I think that we can do that if there's a willingness from the other side.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is it Gates?
Yes, good morning, Samantha. Thank you.
Good morning.
Yeah, that's okay. So the STF recommended to members to accept the most recent deal, but membership obviously voted against it. So my question is, what are you and the bargaining committee doing right now to bridge that gap with membership, to kind of bring back that trust and confidence it might be perceived to be losing with membership?
So as I had said before, while we recommended the tentative agreement to teachers, they provide us there with our direction. And so they provided us with the direction that they want us to negotiate. We're confident that we can negotiate additional supports for our students and supports for teachers in their classrooms, protections around their working conditions. And in the conversations that I hear from teachers, their position around the last tentative agreement was that there were too many things that were included that were promises for the future. And like I said, we need to see solutions to the growing needs of our students and the increasing classroom complexity now. We've talked about these issues for a long time. As I said, we've heard the minister as well acknowledge that growing class sizes and increasing complexity is an issue. It just comes down to finding those solutions that are going to work for Saskatchewan. And I think that we have the right people to be able to find those solutions. So then it just comes down to the political will to start funding them and start making our students' education a priority.
Thanks for that. Lastly, for me, year-end events like field trips and graduations are, I guess, now in jeopardy with work to rule sanctions beginning on Monday. I just your thoughts on how this will be affecting students looking forward to the end of the school year.
Absolutely. Teachers provide lots of voluntary services, whether it's within the school day or outside of the school day, all through the school year. But the end of the year is definitely a time for celebration and reflection on the good things that have happened over the course of the year or potentially over the course of a K-12 education career. So we want to celebrate those events, and we've provided some direction to our members in terms of what can continue and what can't continue. We've also heard from the Minister of Education that along with School Boards Association President, that they have plans in place to ensure graduation ceremonies continue. We have told our members that within these sanctions, teachers won't be supporting the planning or facilitation of graduation events. But like I said, there's a way to avoid all of this, and that's to get back to the table and come to an agreement where we'll start to see real improvements to classrooms coming up in September. We know that planning is happening right now for school divisions, whether it's hiring that's occurring or timetables that are being developed right now by our principals and vice principals. So we want to make sure that we have the best plans in place now so that they can start being implemented in September. And that means getting back to the bargaining table. And in good faith, any sanctions that are announced now can be withdrawn. I'd be happy to be able to withdraw them before Monday if government came back with a willingness to negotiate some of those real solutions before that time. But that's up to them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Ryan?
Yes, good morning, Samantha.
Morning.
Just a couple quick questions for you. I was wondering if you could expand on what the tone was like at the bargaining table yesterday compared to those 5 days in May that you had met.
I would say the tone was very similar. There was an interest in having back and forth conversations to start addressing the issues that teachers have brought forward, again, with class complexity and teachers' working conditions or students' learning conditions, as well as compensation. There's a willingness to listen, to try and investigate some of the solutions that are being brought forward, propose other solutions. It comes down to the decisions that we see from government that are continuing to leave our students behind. And we've seen those decisions for the past decades. So while we have a slight change of course, we want to know that that change of course is going to continue in the long term. It can't just be in an election year budget. We want to know next year, are the supports going to continue to be there for our students? Are they going to continue to improve? Because as I said, It's not a one-year fix. We can't find, we won't be able to find a solution for all of the problems within 1 year, but making that real commitment that it's going to continue over a longer period of time. And there was a willingness to have that back and forth conversation yesterday. As I said, the GTPC brought the option of binding arbitration as the path forward, but we do think that there's a way for us to negotiate an agreement and ensure that we have those supports starting to come into schools in September.
Excellent. And this morning, the minister kind of hinted at some observations he had, perhaps of a divide between the STF and membership. I was wondering what your reaction would be to that, if that's indeed the case, if there is a bit of a divide, or if things are still pretty strong between the STF and membership.
Well, we've heard those messages from government over the course of entire negotiations. I know we've heard them say that that the STF doesn't speak for teachers, or that we're misleading our members, or that we're blocking teachers' voices. And all of those claims are absolutely false. Teachers provide us with our direction. They are, I am their voice, but they provide me with that message. And what I hear consistently from teachers is that they are united on the need to fight for public education. And we need to start seeing solutions to the growing needs of our students. And we need to see more support so that we can deliver that high quality education. So I would say I have never experienced a time in my career where teachers are more united to find solutions and start to see real improvements to their experiences in schools, as well as then the experience they can deliver to students in their education.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan. Mari? Maury? From Prairie News?
My apologies.
Oh, no, sounds
got me?
good.
Okay, thanks a lot, Samantha. Sorry about that.
All good.
I'm wondering if the Federation is advising folks like parents, teachers, supporters on communications at this point with the provincial government, just outside of their role in sanctions.
Well, through the entire process, we have asked parents and teachers to advocate as individuals on behalf of their children or their students, to make sure that government is aware that public education is a priority, and that we need to start addressing the growing gap in supports within our schools. And so that would obviously continue. We would ask parents to continue to share those messages, that we can find solutions now, that there are real solutions that we can start implementing as soon as possible. We don't want this to be a long, drawn-out process. And as I said, it just comes down to the political will. So I hope that we're able to get back to the bargaining table. I do think that there is a solution in our grasp, and I would appreciate any support that comes from parents. I know teachers appreciate that support too, so that we can all fight for public education. And it doesn't just include people who are directly connected to education. I know we've experienced a lot of support from businesses and members of the public who recognize that a strong future for Saskatchewan starts with a strong public education system. It is the greatest equalizer. So we want to make sure every student has the best possibility to thrive through our K-12 education, and we need to fund the solutions to address their needs.
Thank you. It sounds like there's optimism that this can be drawn to a conclusion within the month. Is there planning in place for, the summer, if it extends beyond that, as to whether pressures will be brought to bear?
Absolutely. We're always, I know I said this way back earlier in the bargaining process, closer in January, we say we're always planning for the short term and the long term. We're ready to continue the fight for public education, whether bargaining continues or bargaining doesn't continue. We need to make sure that it remains a priority. It remains a topic of conversation. And that fight will continue through the summer. If bargaining hasn't concluded by then, we will make sure that we continue to advance the needs of teachers and students, but in every avenue that is possible as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Keenan?
Just one more question about binding arbitration again. Is there something maybe about binding arbitration, like the framework itself, that you're also sort of rejecting, or is it just sort of the timelines that it puts you under? I just wonder if there's something that maybe binding arbitration puts something off the table or something like that.
No, well, the parties would have to agree to the items that go to binding arbitration. The Government Trustee Bargaining Committee did put forward that they would be agreeable to sending salary and the accountability framework to binding arbitration, but we want to find the solutions that work for the people who are directly involved. And like I said, I think that we have the understanding of the issues. We have the right people that are involved directly at the table to find those solutions that are going to work for teachers, that are going to work for school boards, that will work for government and members of Saskatchewan as they government represents Saskatchewan. And most importantly, again, our students. We're the ones directly connected to it, so we're the ones best positioned to find those solutions and ensure that they work. If it goes to arbitration, it involves a third party, a lawyer, likely potentially less connected, but I'm confident in the arguments that we could make to advance the issues of classroom complexity. But like I said, it is a long process. It excludes teacher voice within that process as it's an imposed agreement that comes. And teachers have been highly engaged through this process. And like I said, we want to find solutions that are going to work for them and their students.
All right, now I'm done. Thank you.
All good. Garo?
Good morning. My question is going to be in French, so if it's possible to have Angela Banda.
I am not sure. I should have checked on that beforehand. I usually know when Angela's on.
I'm here.
There she is. Thank you.
Vous êtes toujours là
Merci.
pour nous. Merci beaucoup, madame.
Je vous en prie.
Ma question, ça va être un petit peu répétitif, mais j'ai besoin d'un extrait pour français. Donc, je vais vous citer tout d'abord la parole de votre présidente en date de 14 mars. Donc, elle a dit nous proposons une solution équitable, objective et neutre pour résoudre ce conflit si le gouvernement accepte l'arbitrage contraignant en ce qui concerne la taille et la complexité de la classe. Nous reprenons les négociations et toutes les activités parascolaires. Fin de citation. Donc, comment vous expliquez maintenant le changement d'opinion, madame?
Ben, tout simplement, les circonstances, le contexte change en faisant des négociations. Alors, quand on a suggéré l'arbitrage en mars, c'était parce qu'on n'avait aucune négociation à table. Alors, il y avait un refus absolu de même pas aller à propos de la complexité de classe. Alors, à ce moment-là, on a dit, bah, si vous n'êtes pas préparé d'aborder ce sujet, une solution possible, ça sera l'arbitrage. Maintenant, on se trouve dans une autre situation. On a eu de vraies négociations en mai, 5 jours, 2 jours à table formellement. Et c'était vraiment le début des négociations. Alors, comme le gouvernement nous dit, le ministre nous dit toujours, la meilleure solution se trouve à table. On est d'accord. Et maintenant qu'on a eu une expérience de vraie négociation et dans le dernier jour là, de négociation, on a fait du progrès. On avait un vrai discours. Alors, on demande au gouvernement et au SSBA de retourner à table et continuer avec les propositions qui ont été proposées. En plus, si on entre en arbitrage, ça prend du temps. C'est long. Et on arrive presque à la fin de l'année scolaire. On aimerait, c'est-à-dire nos élèves, nos parents et nos enseignants, enseignantes, aimeraient bien avoir des solutions en salle de classe dès l'automne. Alors, entrer dans le processus de l'arbitrage, ça peut prendre 6 mois, 1 année. Alors, on demande au gouvernement de retourner à table pour continuer le discours, pour vraiment continuer les négociations, de faire un effort au niveau politique de résoudre ce problème.
Parfait. Si vous me permettez une deuxième question très rapidement, je vois une optimisme de la part de la STF. Est-ce que vous êtes sûr que vous allez arriver d'ici septembre à une autre pour signer une autre convention collective ou proposer une autre contrat à vos membres?
Ben, on reste toujours optimiste. Comme je viens de dire et Madame la Présidente Samantha vient de dire, on a fait plusieurs propositions à table hier, des solutions qu'on trouve acceptables pour tout le monde. Il manque tout simplement un engagement politique pour continuer cette discussion. Alors, on reste optimiste qu'avec un peu de temps, le gouvernement va reconsidérer comment retourner à table pour avoir une entente qui est acceptable pour tout le monde. Et on commence avec des étapes pour résoudre le problème posé par la complexité en salle de classe.
Parfait, merci beaucoup.
Je vous en prie.
Thank you, Madame Samantha.
Merci. All right, so I don't see any additional questions and nothing in the chat. So again, just want to thank everyone for joining us here today. As I said, there are solutions that are there, and I do think that a negotiated agreement is within our reach. We just need the political will from our government to engage in those conversations and make real commitments over the course of the agreement to continue to improve the experiences that students and teachers will have in schools. We want to ensure that the needs of our students are being met. And so we have to work together to find those solutions and to implement the solutions. And the best place to have that happen, as our minister has said, is at the table negotiated by the people directly involved. So again, thank you so much. Anyone in the public who has provided support throughout the course of these negotiations, again, extending our thanks to you, students, parents, members of the public, families. Your support has meant so much to teachers, and we know that public education is a priority and will continue to be a priority whether bargaining continues or bargaining concludes. We'll continue to advocate for our students. So thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.